I'm Sechaba Rasekoala, and this is NMJ.Longwane.
Sechaba Rasekoala, but he's not the division. Now, guys, TSTV sharp against
It was a bit of a power thing with TTM. They didn't want to pay for the surgery. One of the guys actually lost his job who was trying to help out my parents.
Just before we start, just tell us, where did the love of the game stem from?
That's a deep question. I wish I had, a background of the questions that would be asked, but I guess that would make it too easy. It's come from a few places. But I would say mostly my surroundings and my upbringing. My parents are United supporters. I have a brother who's not really a brother, not by blood, but his name is Nkululeko. He got me to love the game so much. He taught me so much, gave me the foundation, and from there, I just, ran with it. And in primary school, I had a lot of friends that were playing football, and that's just where the manifestations grew, and that's where the love grew. I saw it as the only thing that I was supposed to do with my life. I couldn't look further than the football pitch. I couldn't see anything more than me just running, chasing the ball, tackling, dribbling, shooting. There was nothing more for me than football. The football club that I played for, that really started it, that ignited my passion to its full extent, was Balfour Football Club. The foundation of who I am as a footballer, and mostly as a person as well, comes from Balfour Football Club. It was a great setup. They really cared so much about developing the characters of footballers, and the foundation that they created there was something that I can never appreciate enough, because Sechaba Rasekoala as a footballer is a product of Balfour Football Club.
Drums, please.
I went to knock on their door, but I knocked on the wrong one. Corinthians, which was the feeder team to Mpumalanga Black Aces. I thought I was going to Black Aces, and I get there to Corinthians, and I ended up playing for Corinthians. We played a few friendlies against Black Aces, and the season after I played for Corinthians, that's where I went to trial for Black Aces. I would say it was a blessing from God. The under-19 coach was like, let me see that guy at left back. Ended up playing left back. He liked me, and I ended up staying there. We had a moment where one of our centre backs got injured, and the other centre back had a school commitment. So the coach said, I'm just going to throw you in here while we're doing the shadowing, and we will then see where we can play you at a later stage. I shadowed so well, I ended up playing centre back in our friendlies. We played a couple of friendlies against Rosina, Wits at the time, and I ended up being a centre back that whole season for the under-19 team. So that's how that happened. In 2019, I went to Germany for a little while, trying to find an opportunity there. I enjoyed my time there, but in regards to the football, it didn't work out so well. We were looking at opportunities where we can kick and hope, where we can knock on the door and see what happens. I went there to stay with my uncle. We didn't know how hard it was, but we were willing to, I guess, get a lay of the land and see what opportunities we could have gotten. And that's how I ended up in Germany.
What would you say is the biggest role that your parents played in you chasing your career?
So when it comes to my parents raising their children, they might say something else. But I feel like the forefront of how they raise their children is liberation, freedom, because they will let us be whoever we want to be, give advice, they won't bombard, and they will try as much as possible to support this dream that we have. And my parents have tried as much as possible to have an open mind. And I think it's also based on their experience and their upbringing, how they were raised and what they've been exposed to. I think they looked at my siblings and I as projects to give more than what they got and less of what they weren't supposed to get.
China has identified the cause of the mysterious new virus, coronavirus.
The National Coronavirus Command Council has decided to enforce a nationwide lockdown.
You must stay at home. 2020 will be the toughest year of our lives.
I don't know if I'm still going to do this. Where I was before that was a very tough position. Obviously, we all know 2020 had quite an intense knock on everybody. 2020 was a moment where I had to figure out if I was still going to do it or not, because as a footballer, losing 1 year when you're not in a professional setting is losing 2 years. And with age against us, so much, so often, it's kind of hard to believe that you're young at the age of 20 in the football industry. So I was at a point where I was like, I don't know if I'm still going to do this. Will I be fit after this year? Will I still have the mental resilience and the strength? I was very low. And I figured, I can try MDC. I looked at the teams that newly got promoted. Swallows
FC, a long-awaited and anticipated return to the top flight of South African football, finally came to pass.
Stellenbosch and TTM. Obviously, the closest to home was Swallows. They hosted trials in Randburg. That didn't go well. Okay, maybe we can head to Stellenbosch. And at the time, I found out that Stellenbosch had already established their team. They didn't want anybody else trialing for them. So my last option was TTM. I had to make a decision. Am I gonna go? Am I just gonna leave it and see what happens later, or look into other opportunities? It was a tough trial. It was a tough moment. It was very awkward because I'm traveling somewhere I've never traveled before, and I don't know what to expect. I don't speak their language. Going there alone was also going to be a mission. So thankfully, I had my father who traveled with me the first time, and it was sticky. It was what you expect from an open trial. We get there, and it's the exact place that we were thinking of. Just gravel, sand, and about minimum of 600 people. And this is in Venda. It's hot, but it got worse. We went past 12 o'clock. I still didn't play. We went past 1 o'clock. I still didn't play. 2 o'clock, didn't play. Until it was about 4 o'clock. And now we were preparing to get onto the pitch. In that moment, I was like, okay, you know what? I don't even think these guys are even watching. So we're here. There's some people watching. Why don't you just play? And then we'll see what happens from there. That one turned out badly. I was stuck, didn't know what to do. Was chasing shadows. There was another game after that, so they told us, sorry guys, it's the end of the road for you over here. And yeah, you're gonna have to go home. God blessed me with an opportunity after that. They were trying out other players. In that moment, they were looking for centre backs. And I just put up my hand. I went, played centre back, had a solid game. And I think in that moment, David Matsibula saw, you know what, I think this guy is a left back. The trial ended and they were like, okay, we'll call you guys back to let you know when training starts. On that day, that was where I knew I'm part of the team so far.
Was it official? They were like, okay, here's a contract, you're signing now, you're with us?
No. When it was officiated that I was playing for TTM was when some guy came with, you know, the PSL registration papers, and they were like, okay, you guys just sign here. This happened during training. You should be able to take this home though. You know, and in that moment I was like, do I sign this or not? You know, it's not a PSL contract, but it's gonna open the door to one. But there's always fine print, and we're being pressed to sign this without our guardians, without even an hour to read the paper. We couldn't see the terms and conditions. It was just put your name here, put your ID here, sign here, go back to training. And unfortunately, I did exactly that. I was pressed. So under so much pressure, I couldn't think rationally. And I wasn't aware of my rights. I couldn't say, but give me time to read this at home and I'll bring it to you tomorrow. It's unfortunate. It's going to happen. And there will be players desperate, looking for opportunities, not willing to go through paperwork to see how bad their career is going to go after they sign that piece of paper, because all they are anticipating is how good it can get. All credit to David Matsibula and where he is right now. He was a good coach. The only thing is, he was just a coach. He didn't know about our accommodation, where we were staying, how we were eating, because that wasn't his job. And bear in mind, we're also scared of telling him, I'm currently uncomfortable where I'm staying. Because if I tell him that, he's gonna see me buckle and it's gonna be like, I don't wanna work with this player. I can't say that that's what would have happened, because there wasn't a moment where I told him about the conditions that we were going through and how bad it was. So unfortunately, he couldn't be a helping hand because he didn't know what was going on.
What were the struggles that you were going through during the times, like accommodation? I mean, you were very far from home, you know?
Yeah.
Did TTM offer any accommodation? How was it if they did offer?
So at the beginning, we were staying at a guest house. And we were staying at a guest house while our accommodation, where we were actually going to stay, was being built. It was comfortable enough for us to not worry about it. Then there was a turnaround. I think we went on a break, and after that break, we were being taken back to our accommodation where we were going to be staying for the rest of the season. While we were there, it was terrible. It wasn't roofed properly, so the roof was, it was just that roof, you know, the outermost part of the roof, and then the wooden structures to uphold it. No cover. So if it rained, certain parts of the house, there would be rain inside the house. There was no kitchen. The floor was just concrete. There were mattresses, but you know those mattresses Like, you know when they make sponge mattresses and they cut the shape and then there's offcuts? The mattresses we slept on were basically made of offcuts. And there were no sheets, there were no blankets, there were not enough curtains. The curtains is what you use. You either use the curtains to keep yourself warm if it gets cold, because it did get cold at night, or you use the curtain as a sheet and you sleep with your clothes on, or you keep the curtains up and you sleep on those itchy mattresses. There was a bath, but there was no clean water. There was one tap outside, but there was no clean water. And we were 30 minutes away from the closest mall. What you see on TV doesn't reflect what the players going through. It's built into the team. Some players were only working hard to get onto the team sheet because they knew we're going to be traveling on a bus, we're going to be sleeping in a hotel, we're going to be eating well, and you know, that's where their goals were. Some of their goals ended on the team sheet just for 3 days. So when you were going to war, you were going to war with guys that weren't even willing to die with you. And you couldn't even blame them because the conditions 1 hour away from home, or what we thought was home, would feel like it would feel eternal. It was probably the best, worst moment I've ever experienced in my football career. Definitely the worst point that I've been at. It was 50-50, you know. We were either at 100% or 60. Because remember, some of the games were being aired, so it was an opportunity. The games that were being aired, we looked at each other like, okay, this is an opportunity to maybe for Maritzburg to see, hey, we like that guy. That guy's quality. You know, it was an opportunity to try and knock on some door. Just play like it's your last game, and those games would be brilliant games. You know, football it's a humbling sport. You have to give as much as you want, as much as you can, and as much as you have to football. So if you're ever asking football for something, you're not supposed to be on the field. And sometimes you believe in that so much that you're willing to take abuse and you're willing to be in the pits, in the lowest of the low, because there's this big dream that I'm trying to achieve and I have to be here to get there.
What I've learned from a traveler.
So you would say there could have been some fraud in this, because
Definitely.
At TTM, when you play in PSL, there's money that's given to you.
I definitely believe so. I mean, I personally feel like us staying at the guest house was also just to buy time so they could build that place into a certain kind of structure that was livable. And then they would end up taking whatever money was put aside for us in terms of accommodation. I can guarantee none of those guys would have slept there.
Don't go up on me.
I got to live the lifestyle of a professional on certain days, especially the live games as an MDC player, taken so seriously. There had to be order. There had to be structure. You couldn't tamper with time. It was nice experiencing that, and also being on TV and being like, yo, I mean, there's no place to hide on the football pitch, but today is definitely a day where if you get exposed, we can rewind and show you exactly how you got exposed. I did have a few sessions with the first team. It was tough based on the pressure. Like, it was like, oh, I'm training with these guys, you know. But it actually wasn't that bad. I mean, the level from MDC to PSL and NFT, it's kind of all the same. It's just more so about consistency, character. You have to be confident. You have to be robust. or else the personalities of all the other players are just gonna overshadow you. You won't even be able to show up. You'll have bad touches. You really have to be confident. The first game of the MDC season was against Maritzburg at Giant Stadium. That was probably one of the worst games I've ever played. Like, it was so tough. We were suffering out there. The score was 1-0. It literally was first goal wins because both teams were tired and we were playing at Giant Stadium. And I kid you not, it was a Giant Stadium. That field was huge. After TTM, I was actually at Olympia again. This time at Olympia, I was playing Super League because I was trying to figure things out, you know.
So you're still under contract, quote unquote, with TTM?
No. I requested for my clearance with TTM because I knew that they weren't going to call me back. Now there was something that happened at TTM for me to have left and not tried any other opportunities with them. I fractured and dislocated my nose, and there were some problems with the bill being paid, which was supposed to be paid by the club, and they would have obviously been reimbursed by the PSL because that injury I experienced when we were playing against Bloemfontein Celtic. So it happened while there was a MDC official game. But it was a bit of a power thing with TTM. They didn't want to pay for the surgery. One of the guys actually lost his job who was trying to help out my parents. He lost his job because he helped my parents out, saying, this is what you need to do. These are the forms you need to put in place so that you guys can get reimbursed. After some time, I got my clearance. This was after the season ended, and most of that was prompted by my injury.
Do you think you can still push and get back into a PSL league, or it's more of like, hey, I'm relaxed now, whatever happens, happens?
I would say it's a bit of both. You know, football is a tough career. You know, there's some guys that quit football for 2 years and after that they found themselves in the PSL, in the NFD, you know. It happens like that, and you have to go through it anticipating and understanding that when you're here, it's not going to be forever, and when you're here, it's not going to be forever. So it's kind of a 50-50. Right now, I'm at a point where I'm like, if there's an opportunity that I can take that won't pull me away from developing the rest of my life, I will take it.
Thank you so much for coming on board and telling your story, and hopefully a lot of people can see this and see that it's not always glamorous at the top, you know. And yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I hope to be on the channel again, giving a different side of myself and being able to provide some information that can be beneficial to the youngsters of South Africa and the rest of Africa as well. Thank you. Cut!